Good afternoon and welcome to Midday Report here on TVP World. I'm your host, Marie Cato. Belarus has released 52 political prisoners, including 2 Poles. They made their way to Lithuania with the United States delegation that negotiated their release. Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda has said that the released prisoners also include Lithuanian nationals, while the Polish Foreign Ministry has confirmed the presence of Polish citizens and Belsat TV journalists in the group.
No man left behind. 52 prisoners safely crossed the Lithuanian border from Belarus today, leaving behind barbed wire, barred windows and constant fear. Among them, which is especially important to me, were 6 Lithuanians. I'm deeply grateful to the United States and personally to President Donald Trump for their continued efforts to free political prisoners. 52 is a lot, a great many. Yet more than 1,000 political prisoners still remain in Belarusian prisons, and we cannot stop until they see freedom.
A Trump administration official has confirmed that Washington will be lifting sanctions on Belarus's flag air carrier, Belavia. Russia's drone incursion into Poland did not only test the country's air defenses, but also served as a probe into how it can rally support from its allies. This was the major takeaway from a debate in the European Parliament Thursday morning on the incursion of 19 suspected Shahed drones from Russia over Polish skies. We are now joined live by our EU correspondent Angela Skujins in Strasbourg. Good afternoon, Angela. What is the significance of this incident being discussed by lawmakers?
Good afternoon. So yesterday, when this news was coming to light, we heard dozens of MEPs, not just those from Poland, but across the European Union, express their solidarity to the Central European country in the wake of that news that dozens of those suspected drones from Russia were entered into Polish airspace and subsequently shot down by NATO military alliance fighter jets. Now, they wanted to bring this matter formally into the chamber. It resulted in an hour-long debate, and the common thread that we heard from various of MEPs, not just from Poland, but also from outside of Poland, is that this should be a significant warning for the European continent. Many of them are also taking this as a serious provocation from the Kremlin, one that is not accidental, but on purpose, which appears to be a sign that Russia's attacks against the European continent is only escalating, and that transatlantic support as well as European Union unity is required to rebuff further attacks.
The threat to peace is coming from the east. It's not coming from the west. It's not coming from the European institutions or the transatlantic institutions. But I would like to say quite simply, words are not enough. There's a lot of that, but we have to back these up with deeds.
Yes, so you could be asking what will happen next, especially from support from NATO as well as the European Union. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte spoke to European ambassadors in Brussels today about the need to shore up defensive measures as well as scaling up their NATO military defence targets from 2.5% to 5%. This meeting apparently was in the works for weeks, but this recent incursion over Poland's airspace highlights the need to address key capability gaps, particularly air defences and anti-drone technology. Yesterday, we heard many senior EU executives offer their support to Poland regarding this incident, and even late last night, the EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas released a statement in which she described this incident as intentional and not something that only risks the health and safety of European citizens, but the whole international peace security project. But this is, of course, a developing news story, and we'll bring the updates to you and the newsroom as they materialise.
Okay, Angela Skujins, our EU correspondent, updating us from Strasbourg. Thank you so much. The foreign ministers of Poland, Lithuania and Ukraine jointly condemned Wednesday's incursion of Russian drones into Polish airspace as a deliberate, coordinated attack and an unprecedented provocation and escalation. They called for the reinforcement of Ukraine's air defense and support for their countries in securing NATO's eastern flank. In a joint statement, Radosław Sikorski, Kestutis Budrys and Andriy Sybiha said that only a decisive response can prevent further escalation. They noted that Russia is already exploiting the incident in its propaganda and disinformation campaign. Reports have emerged that Russian channels are attempting to blame Ukraine. On Wednesday morning, about 20 Russian drones entered Polish airspace, of which 4 were shot down. This was the first time during the full-scale war in Ukraine NATO forces used its air defense capabilities against what are believed to be Russian drones.
4 months ago, agreed to the unconditional ceasefire, and now it's up.
Of the possible 20 drones that were violated Polish airspace on Wednesday, 4 were shot down using weapons far more expensive than the drones in question. NATO's Supreme Allied Commander for Europe, General Aleksis Grynkewich, said at a press conference in the Lithuanian capital, Vilnius, that the alliance is working to bring costs of drone defense down, adding that it doesn't feature in any decision to defend NATO countries.
Absolutely more to be done. There are enhancements to weaponry that allow us to get to a lower cost per engagement that nations have been experimenting with, and will certainly continue to push that with all of the nations in the alliance, all 32, to build ground-based capability and air-based capability that gets us on the correct side of the cost curve. But when you're an operational commander and you have a capability, and there's an attack or an incursion into your airspace, the cost of the weapon doesn't matter at that moment in time. You're going to use it to defend our population, and I'm very proud of our people who did.
Donald Tusk delivered comments in the wake of Wednesday's drone incursion into Polish territory. Speaking at the 32nd Tactical Air Base in the town of Łask, Tusk praised the efforts of Polish fighter pilots, reiterating that in 2026 the facility in question will become home to Poland's first F-35 Lightning II fighter squadron.
Your heroes, those that know what your day-to-day service looks like, know how much work and dedication was needed to keep Poland safe yesterday, despite the aggressive attack on Polish airspace. This is also related to your continuously improving skills and the upgrades to equipment and systems that you're using.
Visiting the 31st Tactical Air Base in Poznań, Polish President Karol Nawrocki said the Wednesday incursion of Russian drones into Polish airspace was nothing more than a probe of Poland and NATO's capabilities. According to Nawrocki, the operation was a test for the Polish military and Polish politicians, with both passing it with flying colors.
Prowokacja jak panowie generałowie I nasi żołnierze doskonale.
This Russian provocation, as you are well aware, was nothing more than an attempt to test our capabilities, our ability to respond, including that of the Polish President and Prime Minister, to what is happening today, to what is happening now. It was a probe testing the operating procedures of the North Atlantic Alliance and our readiness to respond. And for that, I would like to thank you, distinguished officers and enlisted soldiers, because we passed all these tests. The political test, the test of partnership within the North Atlantic Alliance, performing our diplomatic tasks since last night, and above all, the military test, your readiness to respond to Russian provocations. That is why I would like to sincerely thank Air Force Inspector General Nowak for our readiness to respond, General Chojnacki, the commander of the Second Wing, and Colonel Śniegula for the daily work you do here, including training, logistics, and finally, combat operations.
At Poland's request, the United Nations Security Council will convene an extraordinary meeting, the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on the social media platform X.
The request follows Russia violating Polish airspace with drones the night before. The Polish military called the incident an act of aggression, which posed a real threat to public safety. In the overnight operation, Poland, backed by NATO allies, shut down multiple incoming Russian drones. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Donald Tusk said that Poland invoked Article 4 of the NATO treaty, calling for emergency consultations among allies when a member's security is threatened. Drone fragments have been found in multiple parts of Poland, and some of the debris caused damage to civilian infrastructure.
Poland restricts Russian access to the Schengen zone, said Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski in a statement released by the Foreign Ministry on Thursday, a day after Russian drones violated Polish airspace.
When Russia sends death squads and murders people in Europe, when it sends arsonists, then we not only close consulates, not only expel Russian diplomats, but also restrict Russians' access to the Schengen zone.
Border crossings with Belarus will remain closed until further notice, according to the Polish Interior Ministry.
It was initially announced on Tuesday that the border would be shut from Thursday ahead of the annual Zapad joint military exercises by Russia and Belarus, which are set to begin on Friday. Officials said it showed Warsaw's readiness to take radical action amid a deteriorating security situation on its eastern border. After Russian drones breached Polish airspace early on Wednesday, the Polish Interior Ministry said the border crossings will remain closed until further notice.
Following the Russian drone incursion into Poland, the Czech Republic has announced its readiness to send helicopters to Poland if Warsaw requests such support.
The Czech Defense Ministry is ready to deploy a special operations helicopter unit to help protect Europe's airspace in the wake of what it described as an act of Russian aggression. This announcement followed a conversation between Czech Defense Minister Jana Czernochova and her Polish counterpart Władysław Kosiniak-Kamysz, in which Warsaw requested support. 3 modified Mi-171S helicopters could be deployed within days to assist with defending against low-flying drones. Czech Prime Minister Petr Fiala said his country stands firmly by its neighbor following Russia's violation of Polish airspace.
Russia is seeking an escalation in this war, said Finnish President Alexander Stubb at a joint press briefing with his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky on Thursday. Both leaders emphasized that Russia continues to provoke Europe and NATO in a deliberate manner. Zelensky also said that the Ukrainian armed forces are monitoring the Zapad joint Russia-Belarus military exercises and the movements of Russian forces.
More details are emerging about the drone designs used by Russia, which indicate that the drone incursions into Polish airspace via Ukraine and Belarus were deliberate and not accidental. Partial military exercises by Russia and Belarus have already begun on Belarusian soil, and we are monitoring them from Ukraine. Our forces are tracking the movement of Russian equipment and the build-up of military infrastructure.
Russia is seeking escalation in this war, and we have seen examples of that yesterday. So what we saw yesterday will have a wider impact on Europe. Russian drones violated Poland's territorial integrity in a way that we have not yet seen during Russia's war of aggression here in Ukraine. At Poland's request, NATO has held consultations on the basis of Article 4, and Finland, of course, supports Poland.
International Atomic Energy Agency personnel reported hearing drones and gunfire in the vicinity of Ukraine's Khmelnytskyi and Rivne nuclear power plants during Russia's strike in western Ukraine, said the agency's director Rafael Grossi on Wednesday.
Grossi expressed deep concern over the incident and shared that his team noted large-scale military efforts near the 2 nuclear power plants. The agency's chief said this should never happen. The Khmelnytskyi plant reportedly detected 9 drones within a 3-kilometer radius from the facility, while 13 drones were detected in the Rivne plant's surveillance area. Russia has continuously been targeting Ukraine's energy grid, causing nationwide blackouts. The International Atomic Energy Agency also repeatedly shared concerns regarding the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, a Ukrainian facility occupied by Russian troops.
And here we conclude Midday Report. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for more on TVP World. Goodbye.